Tell me, how often do you get to meet angels and heroes? I work with them every day. And today you're going to meet three of them: Martha Velez, Heather McMahon, and Evelyn Friedman, three true leaders who have been working to bring the necessary resources to those in need amid the COVID pandemic struggles. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on the Community InRoads Watch for the Helper series. My name is Joan Kulash. And what I'm going to be asking my guests to do right now is one at a time, I'll be calling on you. Just introduce yourself, your name, your organization, just high level what it is that the organization does. And then we'll circle back a little bit afterwards. So Martha, you want to start just a few sentences? You can do a little bit more than a few sentences.
Sure. First, thank you for inviting me on. My name is Martha Velez. I'm the Director of Health and Human Services, and I run the Center, which is a social service agency for people that are 55 and over. And we're also the community focal point for a lot of community events and partners with our community partners. And I have the pleasure also of working with these two wonderful women that are doers in this community, and we move forward. Anything that we roll forward for sure.
Heather?
Thanks, Joan. And I'm happy to be here with these amazing women, including you, Joan. You are a helper and doer yourself. I'm Heather McMahon, Executive Director of Groundwork Lawrence, and we work in Greater Lawrence doing everything from building parks and trails, tree planting, a key piece of what we're doing with COVID-19 around food access, with youth education and development. And then folks know us for a lot of our big cleanup events, which unfortunately are not happening this year, but we will figure out a way to keep Greater Lawrence cleaner and greener throughout all this one way or the other.
And knowing you guys, you're going to be figuring out how to do the cleanup in one way.
Yes, exactly.
Evelyn Friedman.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Friedman, and I'm delighted to be here with all of you and all these powerful women who are running powerful organizations. We're the Greater Lawrence Community Action Council is the anti-poverty agency for the area. There are 23 anti-poverty agencies in Massachusetts, and we all have some similar programs such as Head Start, fuel assistance, the WIC program, and then depending on the community, we've evolved to provide services based on what a particular community needs. In our case, we have 33,000 participants in our programs, and we serve the Greater Lawrence area, including Andover, North Andover, Methuen, and Lawrence, and then some instances, Reading, Haverhill, depending on what the program is.
Yeah, big agency doing a lot of big work in the community. Martha, I'd like to circle back to you. You've been you're a Laurentian and proud of it.
I am.
Right. And you've been very much on the ground watching the devastation of what's been occurring with the virus. And what I'd like to do with each of you is to talk a little bit about how it's impacting certainly your organization and the workarounds you've had to do, but also just how it's impacting the people of the community. And so I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. I mean, the good thing is that the mayor said it the other day, you know, I'm a crisis veteran, I guess, because we went through the gas crisis and we had to see that happen. And just as we think we're going, you know, down the hill and we're getting better, something like this happens. And this for me is very tough because in the gas crisis, we had a lot of people come together and help and push, you know, and push the community and help the community and do everything. With this, it's so strategic and you have to think so much of how it affects people. And, you know, it's affected the elders the most, right? The unfortunate thing, we know people that have passed. We have elders that came to the center that have passed. And this is heart-wrenching, not only for us, but for families and the way they have to say goodbye to their loved ones. But I think that one of the greatest things that we can do as humans is just support one another and help one another. And as a true Laurentian, you know, we're resilient and we figure it out and we do what we need to do. All programs have stopped for elders. Elders are very much isolated. I've had to rethink, how we're going to do this, and we're starting that process. And a lot of it has to do with going back to old school broadcasting, and putting suggestion boxes in the elderly housings, and figuring out, like, having fun ways for people to do things. We deliver brown bags to every single elderly housing every month. We've delivered over 100,000 pounds of food to residents in the city that need it, COVID victims, people that are struggling because they've lost their job, they don't have enough money. I also oversee the veteran services and the recreation department. All recreation programs have stopped. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do the summer program. I'm trying to figure out how we can get kids involved so that they can, get some money in their pocket, and how we can strategize on doing things differently. So everything takes a little longer, and it's kind of hard for women like us because, like you mentioned at the beginning, we're like those people that just want to move forward and do what we need to do. And now we need to stop, think, and plan, and it takes a little longer. And I feel bad because I feel that people might feel that they're not getting what they need, but trust community. We are all working really hard to make sure that we see the need, and the need is there not only financially, but also support mentally, food wise. And I really do believe that, unfortunately, what we're seeing now is only the beginning of what we're going to see when this is all over, because we are a small immigrant community. If you take the river away, it's probably like 4 square feet. And you're seeing about 80,000 people in a community that has a lot of small businesses, which might not make it through this. And people are truly going to not be working, and they're going to need Evelyn's agency, Heather's agency, the city of Lawrence to support them. And that's one thing that Lawrence does. We don't turn our backs. We keep doing it. I mean, we were still working on gas crisis. I work with Evelyn's, housing person, Luce, all the time on how do we figure this out for people. And we were still seeing people that went through the gas crisis that are having a hard time. And we're going to continue to do it. And we're going to continue to work strong, and we're going to continue to hold hands. And one thing that Lawrence does, it's not one person raising this community. It's a partnership raising this community. It's all of us working together. And no matter what happens, we use each other's assets to just move forward. No one person has the answer.
Yeah, thank you, Martha. I think one of the big things that nobody can say that we work in silos in Lawrence. It is an extremely, extremely tight community. And it's just amazing how quickly people jumped on to dealing with this. Like as soon as the lockdown came, boom, there you guys were. Heather, can you talk a little bit? I'd like you first to talk a little bit more about Groundwork and how it's impacted Groundwork. And then I'd like you to also talk about the working groups that were established. What I'm also going to ask you folks to do, because there's a little bit of background noise, if you could mute yourselves after you speak, including me, I guess, huh? I've got to mute myself too.
Thanks, Joan. So again, Groundwork Lawrence, it was like like the light switch went. We have our enrichment in the schools, and the schools were shutting down. And I think we all thought this might be just a couple of weeks. We shut the office down on the 13th, and we knew really quickly, as we were beginning to think through, how do we still help the youth and the schools in terms of youth activities? What do we need to do to make sure the design and construction of the parks keeps moving forward so we don't lose ground there? Was trying to think about where can Groundwork fit in. And one key thing we did with the gas explosion relief was build up the We Are Lawrence, Soma Lawrence website. That's been a partnership effort for 8-10 years. Used to be called Live Lawrence. And so the first thing we did, even before we closed, was to start bringing together and making sure We Are Lawrence would be the one site that information was verified, checked, and then shared, and became a central resource for all organizations, for the city, for others, where we could pull that together. Once we moved beyond getting that website up and kind of with a whole focus on COVID, which we were already making it a center for the 2020 census, which is really important, and we don't want to lose as part of this and all the work we need to do. We realized that We Are Lawrence could, and Groundwork had the capacity to then move into more of a facilitator role. And a small group of us had started meeting and working together as the backbone organizations. With the gas explosions, we came together that first week and said, okay, what do we need to do? And we realized really quickly, we need to be able to bring people together. And so we talked about one way we could do that was to have one general information meeting where we've had between 50 and 90 people on regular Monday calls at 2 o'clock, where we can share information, bring in folks to talk about what's going on, and also to then make sure that as key issues come up, we can collaborate and coordinate together. Through those, we also launched working groups, which you can see on the We Are Lawrence, Soma Lawrence website, it's a .org. And through those working groups is where a lot of Groundwork's other expertise came in. So we help facilitate the food access group, where folks are coming together. Groundwork received a grant to buy healthy food. That's going out through food pantries and through deliveries. We were able to launch a restaurant program that restaurants are actually were able to open back up and do grab and go meals to then go out through nonprofit partners that are helping them make sure food gets to families.
And
other
say I love
Yep.
love that particular part in particular. I think it's such a great thing. It's helping the businesses and obviously meeting the needs of the people to be able to eat.
Exactly. We've got 8 restaurants that were closed that opened up, 1,600 meals that are going out every week. I'll also do a plug that $10 gets a meal and supports a restaurant. Folks can go to the Groundwork website and donate directly to that, as well as other food access issues where both GLCAC and the center and others are getting fresh food that's funded through the New Balance Foundation that we're able to purchase. We've got other staff that are facilitating or helping to facilitate the youth in schools, because obviously we want to make sure our youth are being served through this, through activities, trying to find safe ways for them to go out, whether it's using the parks and trails that Groundwork has built with the city or surrounding towns. And then also communications, where folks are coming together and saying, where's the gap? Many of us are really strong on social media, but not everyone, right? So for our older Spanish-speaking residents in Lawrence, radio is really important. And so making sure we're getting out in the radio and that we've got talking points that cover all the different issues as it's changing, because every day things are changing and we're trying to figure that out. And then there's other working groups around behavioral health and mental health and I guess the best way to kind of figure out all the different working groups, if you want to support them, including around those who are experiencing homelessness, is to go to wearelawrence.org, go to the coronavirus page, and then go to working groups. We also are putting information in there that's helpful to nonprofits, because as we hear a lot about our small businesses and what they need to, like the restaurant program and the grab and go meals, a lot of our small nonprofits might not make it through this either. So how do we make sure they're getting resources like the PPP loan and support, and how are we working together to make sure that we, as there's either gaps or things open up because people get sick, how are we working together with each other to really make sure we're meeting the needs of the community overall? And that's residents, that's the nonprofits that are stepping up, that's the businesses, that's the city itself. And so, you know, this is just kind of what Groundwork does. We are founded on the theory of partnership, which is why Lawrence is such an amazing place to be. And partnership and facilitation and bringing people to the table to really figure out how do we move forward and handle anything that's thrown at us. And that's what the group's doing together. And that's what the working groups are doing.
Yes, they are, in spades. And so in your free time, what do you do? Do you have any free
In my free time, I have to say, Joan, you know, I was one of the 8 people that kayaked the full Merrimack River over 4 days last summer. So I've been out kayaking and getting fresh air and taking care of the dog. So if you hear a little snoring in the background, that's the tired dog next to me, and some reading too. Anything you can do safely right now.
Yeah. I thought that was Kevin sleeping in the back. No, your husband? He's a
Nope, that's the dog.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask you to mute right now because I think there's a lawnmower that's been taking over some of the space, the airspace. True Warrior is here. So Evelyn, can you unmute? And I'd like you to talk a little bit more about your organization, Greater Lawrence Community Action Council, how it's impacted your organization. And then I'd like you to talk about the One Lawrence Fund.
Okay. Our big challenge was how do we continue to provide services while we are all off-site. Childcare and Head Start was closed by the governor. So we have 850 children, families that are in either one of those programs, and many of those folks, we need to keep connecting with the families. And so the teachers have been doing Zoom meetings, Zoom classrooms, delivering crayons and all kinds of other and educational materials to the parents, and helping parents figure out how to support their children. We wanted to continue, obviously, providing.
Whoops. I think you've frozen, unfortunately. What I'm going to do, and hope that Evelyn,
Example,
here we go.
People would have to come in and pick up a fuel assistance check. And now we work with the state to allow us to mail those out. Parents would have to come in with their babies at the WIC program for heights and weights and all kinds of things. And now we're not doing that. We're doing everything remotely. So almost all of our programs are remote. There's only a few things that we haven't been able to do, like the weatherization program, which provides insulation and other weatherization services to households, and we can't go into people's houses now, so that's been suspended. But generally, almost everything else is continuing. One of the things that we did, along with some of the other agencies, and this was partly through We Are Lawrence, was figure out how to help people get on unemployment. Because as everyone has said, we have a community that might not be as digitally literate as some other communities, and where language is a problem, and people were having a hard time getting through the unemployment system. And so we have a system between all of us where people can go to a specific agency to help people get on unemployment. So that's one of the things we've added since this has happened. And I just want to reiterate from what everyone else has said, which was, because of the gas crisis, as bad as that was, we had developed an infrastructure among the nonprofits and the city, and to support and help people who were really impacted by the gas crisis. Now, this is different because we can't directly go to people anymore, and that's really made the whole environment completely different. But we had a core of nonprofits who had been working together in the past, so we just really had to reactivate that system once more. In our case, just one example, and I think Heather kind of spoke to this, is that one of the big impacts is food insecurity, which is sort of amazing to me in our country that we would have food insecurity. But just to give you an example, Martha touched on this as well, just to give you an example, our food pantry on a regular week would serve 100 or 125 people. We're now up to 350 people coming to the food pantry, and we're also delivering food to people who can't get out because they're sick or there is some other problem. So that is something that is, I find, unexplainable, that people would be food insecure in a country like ours. Anyway, so what we're doing is we're working on this. We worked with the United Way, who provided some resources to us, along with other foundations, the Essex County Community Foundation, to help with food pantries and help with other things. But one of the problems that we're facing is that we have a lot of folks who are not eligible for regular programs, are not eligible for unemployment, are not eligible for fuel assistance or other programs where they might where many other people might be eligible. So we've set up a fund with the help of the United Way called the One Lawrence Fund, where people can donate so that we can distribute resources. We're doing it in the form of gift cards for specifically for people who cannot get normal government resources.
So the name of the fund is One Lawrence.
One Lawrence Fund. It can go. if people are interested, they can go to the United Way of Mass Bay website and you can donate there. Or you can go to one of our websites and you will be directed to the United Way website.
And so what will, once again, that will buy gift cards for people in need who otherwise are not eligible for some of the infrastructure that is provided to a lot of other people. So I right now, I am going to urge all of my neighbors from North Andover to, if you don't get on the website, you can also write a check to One Lawrence. If you're maybe adverse to getting online or you don't have a computer, you can very simply write a check to One Lawrence and send it to
The United Way of Mass Bay.
Okay.
We're at 51 Sleeper Street in Boston.
51 Sleeper Street in Boston. So when we get off of this phone call, that is the first thing I'm going to do, is write a check. Once again, I'm going to urge other people to do the same thing. Check or do it online. So now I want to just go through and I'm going to ask each one of the agencies, what is it that that people in this community can do to help your specific agency with your specific mission? And Martha, why don't we start with you? You've been quiet. We muted you for a little bit. That's a tough thing to do. That's on my grave site. That's the one thing I'm going to say is Joan Kulash were able to mute Martha Velez. Oh my God. But she's unmuted now, which is great.
I've just learned to be patient because it comes. Patience, it's a virtue. I've been taught that as I get older, but you get the opportunity to say what you need to say. For me, I think that our agency serves the community in many different ways, but, we do accept donations for, any kind of household goods, cleaning supplies, diapers, as Evelyn, there's people that call us. We take care. When we deliver to COVID patients, and sometimes they're looking for masks and they're looking for, paper towels and anything of cleaning supplies. So we'll take any of that that's given to us. The other thing is, we're giving away food. So if anybody wants to donate food because they can't, they don't want to donate to the one fund, we're there. The center is open from 8 to 4 for the staff that's working. It's not open to the public, so you would have to call. And if you need food, I think that's the most important thing that I want people to know, that if you need food, you can call us at 978-620-3550. And not only food, but if you need some assistance in, whether it's, referrals or any kind of resources in the community, and you don't go to wearelawrence.org, somolawrence.org, you could call us directly and leave a message, and we do get back to people. We also, if you ask us for food, normally within a day or two, we're delivering to your household. And I have to take this opportunity to give a big shout out to really all my staff, all the people that are volunteering. DPW parking attendants are there delivering food, making phone calls. Groundwork Lawrence staff is there making sure that, they help. Kevin McCarthy, who I have to give props to, is the person that's moving all the food around and making sure that gets done. So, it's not Martha Velez alone. It's Martha Velez with a lot of angels. I am just the person that guides, but there's a lot of people doing a lot of work in the background that I appreciate. And and another shout out is to our mayor, because he's a leader that allows people to take the helm and doesn't really get in the way of what people need. He really is a tool to give us what we need. So there are a lot of people that do this, and it's not just a Martha Velez, it's an Evelyn Friedman, it's a Heather McMahon, it's a Jess Anders, it's an Anna Luna. It's a lot of people that come to the table and say, present, I'm here to work. And we do what we have to do. So thank you to everybody. Thank you, Joan, for inviting me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm just going to ask you something really quickly, because food is a big pivotal part of the need out there. Is there any particular types of food that you want and you don't want?
Well, we're a cultural Latino community, so beans and rice, that's really what really people are looking for.
Yeah. Uncooked, when you drop it off, don't have it cooked, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, just, any canned goods is good. Fruit, canned fruits are good. The kids eat mac and cheese, but that's not something that's really, it's really about the rice and the beans and,
okay,
cultural appropriate foods that people like.
okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Heather?
Thanks, Joan. And I think food is the key thing. So we've been able to launch both the restaurant grab and go meals and the Get the Healthy Food to our partners because of donations. So like I said, the New Balance Foundation, but we know we only have a couple more weeks to get us through, and we're buying everything from produce from our local farmers to rice and beans, and really looking each week about what we can get to supplement what's coming from the food banks and to make sure that there's healthy food available, right? And a hot meal is really important too. So I think our biggest focus right now is on funding to support the food, be it those two programs, or as some of you might have seen in the Eagle Tribune or the Andover Townsend, we've got our one farmer out in the field making sure that what we normally have ton of volunteers and our youth out there working for us. We've got one farmer that's making sure we have a harvest that's going to be at the farmers markets, going to be donated to the food pantry. So food's the biggest thing. And then despite all this, we're going to hire 32 teenagers that's going to work either virtually or in small groups throughout the city, and doing youth programming virtually. So I think those are our two biggest focuses right now, is how do we make sure that the youth who they depend on their wages, it's part of their family wages. How do we make sure we're hiring 32? We're actually going up 2 positions this summer. We wanted to go up 10. So if we can get support to make sure those youth actually get their summer slightly virtual and adapted, but get their summer jobs, that would be key for us. And of course, obviously, as we folks on the food side as well, and all that information is on our website, which you can get to, as well as the One Lawrence Fund with United Way.
So let's just say somebody wanted to fund one youth. What would that, do you have a basic idea of what that would be?
Yep. One youth position, oh, I should know this better because minimum wage has gone up. We pay them minimum wage and they work 24 hours a week for 7 weeks in the summer. So we're looking at about $1,700 to fund a youth for the summer.
And so, and if we
yeah.
wanted to divide it by 7 weeks, then, what would it be for just one youth? So think about supporting one
Yeah.
youth. Again, I'm reaching out to my neighbors out there. Think about writing a check to support one youth, and what that's going to give to the broader community is very, very important. It would make a big, big difference.
Thanks, Joe.
Evelyn?
Thanks, Joan. What do you want me to say?
Oh, I want you to say, tell us about where you get your hair done again. No, I want you to talk about how the people who are watching the show might be able to help Greater Lawrence Community Action Council in this time of the COVID crisis.
Before I say that, I want to also mention that if people are having, people can come to us if they're having trouble paying the rent. We're working with Community Teamworks in Lowell and the state to provide rental subsidies for this period of time that people might be out of work and not be able to pay rent. For us, I would say the big need, we have a food pantry. We're always willing to accept food donations of all kinds. We do work with the Greater Lowell Food Bank, but it's always good to have things that are perishable. Bread, rice and beans is not a big thing at the food bank, so we always try to get those donations. And then fresh produce, and we work with Groundworks Lawrence on that, but we always can use more fresh produce. And then the thing that I'm always campaigning on is diapers. We have a huge, most of our clients are people who are families, and we have a lot of people with small children, and diapers are very expensive. And those of you who've had children know that diapers get used a lot every day, and this is something that our families are always looking for. So if people want to make donations for diapers, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today. I know you all have busy days, and I appreciate you joining us this morning. So for the audience, again, please don't forget about the One Lawrence Fund. Please don't forget about supporting our neighbors in the broader community. What helps one family or one city, it impacts all of us. We're all so very interconnected, and because of the COVID crisis, that is punctuated in spades now, how closely and interconnected we as human beings are. Community InRoads is an organization that helps all these nonprofits. So if there's anybody out there who has a specific white collar professional expertise, could be marketing, could be helping with fundraising, could be in finance, please do give me a buzz, and we can talk about how you might be able to volunteer your professional services to help wonderful organizations like the Center, Greater Lawrence Community Action Council, and Groundwork Lawrence. Thank you again.
And
go ahead, Heather.
John, I was just gonna say, and all our organizations support Greater Lawrence too, because I don't want to, we don't want to forget hunger hits everywhere. So if you need help in North Andover, in Andover, and Methuen, and Haverhill, we can make sure that happens either directly through our services or through supports and referrals to others. But with COVID-19, we've got over 1 million people out of work, right? So everyone's being impacted. So we help everyone.
Exactly. So it's a greater we. That's what this is all about.
It really is.
Thank you again for joining us. Martha, Evelyn, Heather, I will see you on the road.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.